squared. And so in this case, I'm moving it to the right 2, and otherwise it won't change. It'll keep that same shape. It's just moving to the right 2. Okay. Same thing happens when I move it to the left. I want to move a function to the left, and again I'll use the square root function. And I use that just because it's relatively easy to draw and easy to understand. So here's our square root function. This is f of x equals the square root of x. Now I want to move this to the left backwards too. So now I'm going to have f of x plus 2. Again, intuitively, not what you think. Now my x is x plus 2. So when I rewrite this, I will have that as the square root of x plus 2. All of that under the square root sign because I'm just replacing the x with x plus 2. Now what I have is I'll move that back 2, and it will go like this. Okay, so we have essentially moved the graph all over the x and the y axis. Now, if we are looking at reflecting the function, we can take any function. So I'm going to take f of x is the square root of 2 again, or square root of x. Now I'm going to flip it over this y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to say f of negative x, so that will be equal to square root of negative x. And you're going, wait, you can't have a square root that's negative. No, but if I put a negative number in here, the negative times the negative will cancel. So what I end up with is only negative numbers will work in here and 0. So it flips this, or it reflects this figure over the y-axis. So I get a function that looks like this, when I originally started out with one that looked like that. Okay? Now to flip it over or reflect it over the x-axis, again, I will use, this time I'm going to use the quadratic. So I'll have f of x equals x squared. Is my initial function. So it's like this. I'm getting sloppy with my drawings. So now I want to reflect it over the x-axis. So I take negative f of x. So when I put the square root here, my negative will go before the square root of x. Okay, up here it went with the x because that was a negative x. This is a negative f of x, and f of x is x squared. Should have used the square root of x, so I will do, no, I'll keep x squared. So this is just going to be a negative x squared. So now what happens is this flips this over the x-axis. So it reflects it down over the x-axis. Okay, you can combine these ideas. If I take f of x equals square root of x is my initial function. If I want to move it left 1 and down 2, I would do f of x plus 1. That'll move it left 1. And then I will subtract 2 from that function. So that will equal, now we've got the square root of x, so now I have the square root of x plus 1. Then it's going to be minus 2 outside of that square root sign. So now what's happened is I'm going to move the square root back 1 and down 2. And in this way, I can get these functions to go anywhere I want within the Cartesian plane. So now if I wanted to use a reflection in this time I'll use f of x equals x squared even though it was disastrous last time. And so now I'm going to reflect this over the x-axis, so it'll be f. I'll move it right 2, x minus 2, and then I'll move it down 3. So this is going to reflect it over the x-axis, move it to the right 2, and down 3. So now my function is going to be way down here, and it's upside down of what we think of it. Okay, thank you.